Hey y'all, it's Leslie, and I'm here today because I'm giving you a overview of my project that I've made for JenofEve Designs design team. This is the last month of our design team. Personally, this has just been a complete honor. I have never felt worthy to be on her team, so to be selected was a humbling experience. And to have gained supporters and subscribers who encourage me and enjoy my work has just made me a little speechless, is what happens. And I told my husband, I said, I'm just speechless by this. And he said, well, you need to be a little more speechless, because that's the problem. I talk all the time. Okay, so the last project we got to choose which template we wanted to use, and well, I'm going to choose the new one. I think it's absolutely fabulous. But since Jennifer hasn't really completed a complete album with it, I thought maybe instead of doing an album, it might be fun for me to do a project with the album like I've done with the other ones. I've looked at the templates in a different way. What else can it be used for? What else can this be used for besides a pocket? And so I've done that again. And I'm excited to show you. Hey y'all, here it is. Isn't this so pretty? Oh my gosh, I'm so in love with this little album. Do you see all that detail in that cover? It's like a canvas cover, and then it's been sewn and fringed a little bit, raveled out. Here's a little piece of lace that I cut and made a little embellishment, and this is some of the leftover. I did a trial run with my lace before I actually dyed a whole lot of it. And so I cut it and I put them together, and I don't know, it's sort of a bow or a butterfly or something. You know, I don't know. Whatever it is. It's there. It's what it is. And it makes a cute little embellishment on the end of the journal like that. Oh, what am I doing? There we go. Okay, so here's what we got. We've got a closer that was made with some lace. This is, you know, Dollar Tree lace. It's actually some lace I didn't find at Dollar Tree, but it was like $1. This is using Tim Holtz Milled Lavender Distress ink. And what I did was I smooshed it onto the mat, and then I spritzed it with water, and then I put the lace in there, and I just did it around with my fingers. A lot of people have shown how to do this with seam binding, but guess what? You can do it with lace too, and make it match, or make it look a little older if you need to. This was white lace that I did this with. Okay, and then I've added one of the Build-a-Bellishments from JenofEve Designs. So this is Build-a-Bellishment number 4 here. And I cut out the window in the center. This is, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to bump your head. This is your cabinet card. And I just cut out this middle part, and that way you could add a photo to the center of it. And I just took another little Build-a-Bellishment that had some flowers on it so that I could tuck that in there and give it a little more color. I used the lavender paper pad from Prima, and I've fussy cut one of the butterflies. It was just too gorgeous, and I just glued it in the center so that its wings could still go up. Down here, this is a flower from my stash. This is another flower from my stash. I have bought one package from the lavender collection, but I didn't really care for them for what I was doing. They didn't seem the right vintageness. So this one had a weird center, and this one had a really white pearly center. And I tried to touch it with some ink and you know, darken it up a little bit. I wasn't happy. So what I've done is I've taken one of the roses from the lace. So I've taken this rose, and what I did was I folded it in half and then folded it in half thirds and glued it all along the way, and then I just tucked it under here. So that's what that is. This one I put a brad in. I cut the legs off the brad with my Tim Holtz scissors, and then I put the brad in the center. This one has a button from my stash, and if you look at it, it's actually upside down because that bow, yeah. So, well, I mean, you know, whatever. So I'm telling you that for this album, I made it while I had a migraine. Okay, so those of you that are afraid to start, just start. Just do something. Just, you know, put two things together and see what it works like. And this, you get a great result. JenofEve Designs templates just kind of guarantee a good result. Okay, let's look inside, and then I'll explain to you how to do some things. Okay, so when you open it up, first of all, I want you to look. Every project I've made so far, since Valentine's, has had some sort of mistake in it. Well, this one did too. I completely forgot to put my lace underneath my element here on the front. I didn't want the ribbon, the lace coming across my butterfly or across the picture on the front. So you know what? I decided, hello, let's just put it on the inside. I had already bound my pages, so I took my scissors and I poked a hole there, and then I poked the lace through, and I pulled it across the back and glued it down just with some Fabri-Tac, and I glued it down with Fabri-Tac here. If that's not quite secure enough, you can stitch over it here, right here, to give it a little bit more protection, or you could put another element here just to cover up the lace, or to give it another place that it's glued down really well. Okay, so I took the pages, the envelope pages from page 12 and page 13. And so this is the envelope, the accordion pocket, she calls it, envelope, and it's from page 12 and 13. And when I'm going to flip through, and then I'll come back and show you the different things. So you've got this, and it opens up to this. And both pages are identical, almost to every detail, but they're done a little differently, using details a little bit differently so that it doesn't look like it's the same. And because it's a small album, having two of the same pages doesn't seem monotonous. You know, if I had a 6-page album and did this over and over and over, that would kind of get boring. But here we go. Alright, so on the very front, you got a tuck spot here, another little Build-a-Embellishment. Fussy cut a butterfly and put that there. Fussy cut a little tag from one of the pages. It was actually, this is from leftover, once I get through cutting all my pages and things out of my pattern paper, sometimes there's a little strip in between, you know, it's just not big enough for anything. Well, I always cut those up and use them as much as I can. So I found a few butterflies and some little tags and labels. So here we've got a one of those, it's not a wax seal, but it looks like a wax seal. And what I did was I used the embossing powder and covered it. If you do not have the ultra thick embossing enamel, I don't know why I keep putting things upside down. The ultra thick embossing enamel by Ranger or you know, whoever, then that's fine. Use regular embossing powder. I did. It took about 6 coats, but I got the same result. So you don't have to go buy new products. You just keep doing it. The ultra thick just lets you do it faster. That's all. Less layers. So I wanted to make sure that you could do that, and so there you go. we're going to take this clip off. Oops. And take out the insert. This is the page 14 insert for this pocket. And I just cut a piece of the pattern paper and used it. And it slips right down inside of the pocket. And if you notice, mine doesn't really have the accordion depth. And I'll show you how I achieve that when I give you the little tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on so that you can see how it looks on the next page. Okay, so on this page, I have this, and here is the paper clip again. The paper clips I got from Dollar Tree, and they were just the pastel paper clips that they've got right now, I guess because of spring. Loved them, so I had to pick up a set. I've got the bright colors, and I just wanted some different ones to be able to pull from my stash. So I've glued a little Build-a-Bellishment. Again, this is actually from the strips from the washi tape, she calls it. I can't find the one that I cut from. But it's from those strips. I printed some on vellum and some on paper, and this is one of the vellum ones.
So this is the one that has all the small little pictures of the Build-a-Bellishments on it. Well, I can't find it. Of course, if you could see the rest of what's around me, you would understand why I can't find it. 18 feet of table. It's covered except for 15 inches. Does your desk ever get like that? Oh, okay.
So, anyway, here's the little piece that I just cut off that Build-a-Bellishment. Another Build-a-Bellishment that I just trimmed and cut up and inked. Everything in here, I have used my Tim Holtz distressing tool on it. Let me take that back. Everything in here looks like I've used this Tim Holtz distressing tool on it. But what I actually did was the side of my scissors. Some people show doing it with the inside blade. That's dangerous for one, but also it can cut your paper too easily. So just use the edge, just, you know, go on the edge of it and just scrape, and you'll just, you know, continue to scrape and you'll get this great little edge. Let's see if you can see that detail. Also, when you're cutting the papers, let me show you here maybe. Do you see the little notch right there? And let's see, can you see the one right here? Oops. Maybe. Yeah, now you can. Those little notches. When you're cutting papers that you want to distress and they don't already have little notches and things, then just, you know, cut in. Do a little triangle when you're cutting. I cut in and then, you know, I cut back the other way, and it just gives you a little place that makes it a little more distressed. Okay, so there's the paper clip. Let's get back focused. And the Build-a-Bellishment piece. This is the envelope. I folded it over on one of the score lines, and I'll show you that. And inside, okay, this is beautiful paper. On the back side, it looks like that picture at the mall that says "You are here," and it, you know, it gives you the layout of all the buildings. I don't understand it. You can see it a little bit on the edge here. Maybe. Yeah, you can tell that. See, it's like all the shops in the mall. I couldn't stand it. So I put a piece of the Build-a-Bellishment in vellum over it and made myself happy. The insert here is, this is, I don't know. I've never had a glassine bag, so I don't know what they're made of. I don't know what they feel like. So we go to this restaurant near us. It's a catfish restaurant. And they bring the silverware to the table in one of these little bags. It sounds like glassine. It sounds like the things that they use when people are using glassine. It's not quite as see-through as other people's glassine. So I had this little bag. It's long. And I folded it up some and cut the bottom off. And that way I get a tuck spot here and a tuck spot here. So in the top, again, I just cut some of the pieces from the album. You can see those little cut-ins really easily here. And there's another one down here. Right here. And so I just, you know, grunched it up and tucked it in here. Another piece from the paper pad. I think I said from the album. This is from the paper pad. Another piece from the paper pad. I just cut and did this. Again, these are scraps. I have one of the Build-a-Bellishments that I've put in this little pocket here. And this one got put in the wrong pocket. This one goes back here, just like that. And it becomes a little hidden place. And this was a scrap. See how the butterflies are cut off? But it's just as cute as it can be. Oh, there's that dead burn. Yeah, I'm just not with that. I don't understand Prima sometimes with their papers. So, I just tucked this back here. And this one is the Build-a-Bellishment, like I said. A great place for journaling or notes, whatever. And that goes in here. Okay? And again, it gets tucked back into the little envelope here. Okay, just like that. And our paper clip goes, oops. Forgot this piece, paper clip goes on top. Okay, on this side, basically the same thing. You got the tuck spot here. You got the paper clip made the exact same way with a piece of vellum from the Build-a-Bellishments and a wax seal. I hot glued the wax seal and then I used, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, you can. I used a Fabri-Tac for the vellum because I didn't want to melt or warp the vellum, even though it did just a little bit. And then I used a hole reinforcement to kind of go over and give me another little, I just didn't know if the Fabri-Tac was going to be good enough on the vellum. So there we go. Another little piece of the Build-a-Bellishment Set 4. Inside of this pocket, again, we have one of those little things. I think I need to go back and ask them if they can give me some more, maybe. I don't know. But every time we go, as soon as we sit down, I'm like, give me all those bags. They learned in restaurants, the little round coasters and things, I grab those every time. You know, they've all learned in a restaurant, just go ahead and give me the stuff. I've got a tuck here. This is from the Build-a-Bellishment. I love this one. It's like a little note that's written, and then it's got, she added the flowers over the top. I just love that. Another little tuck back here behind. This one is a folded page from the Build-a-Bellishment. Build-a-Bellishment. Brush, brush, brush. And then another one of those strips from the paper pad. Just scrapping it away. Anything that's scrap can be made into an embellishment somewhere. And, well, there we go. Let go of it, Leslie. Okay. And we're going to put this piece back on, and our paper clip goes like this. And when you flip, again, the paper clip kind of holds in your little tag there. And pull it out. And it's, again, a piece from the pattern paper that I cut out and tucked right inside of the envelope. I fussy cut some pieces of, oops. I fussy cut some pieces from the Build-a-Bellishments because I needed another element here. I have this little word here. I didn't have any more words, so I had a piece of Build-a-Bellishment left. Cut it out, fussy cut, add a little ink to the edge, and then you've got a embellishment. Again, another piece of scrap. The butterflies are cut off, but you know what? It makes a cute little tuck spot, or tuck. The doilies. This is, I used one 4-inch doily, and I cut it in half and cut each half in half. So I cut it in fourths. And I put one on the corner of each of the pieces here. Just like that. And this is another piece. The doilies either have a butterfly or they have one of these little floral embellishments. And I cut this from the washi tape like this. So that's that with this album. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you love it as much as I do. And you can stick around and I'll show you how I did the pages and how I did this cover, because I know you are loving the way this cover looks with all this little raveled edge, and it's just like smeary. It looks like a little paint drop cloth or something. So today we're going to be using, first of all, I'm going to be using this paper pad. It's the lavender paper pad, and I'm using 3 sheets of the 12 by 12. And actually I only use half sheets, but 3 sheets of 12 by 12. You would probably need 4 sheets of 12 by 12 because one of the papers that I'm using is the Muted Backgrounds, and I'm using it. This is the purple, oops, the purple Muted Background. So difficult to see. Isn't that beautiful? And it matches perfectly. This was like number 11, I believe, from the Muted Backgrounds, and that's also from JenofEve Designs. The template that I'm going to use is the Remnants Lovely Layers from JenofEve Designs, and it looks like this. And she made this so that it could be matted with those cut-off pieces of the 12 by 12 when you print. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to use is page 2. Page 2 is the template for the cover. We're going to use that. We don't use the mat. We're going to use page 12. We're going to use this envelope pocket here. Well, this envelope pocket here. And not use the mat for my project. Now, if you wanted to do it on cardstock or print these and then do it that way, that's fine. But I just used everything as a traceable template. Then we're going to use the other part of this envelope pocket, which is on page 13. You see how I've got my workbook half ready, but it still functions. Then on page 14, we're going to use the page 14, the accordion pocket insert. Okay, and that's all we need from here. The other thing that I use is her new Build-a-Bellishments, the new Build-a-Bellishment Set 4. And I'm going to have a link to this template in JenofEve Designs Etsy shop. I'm going to have a link to her Build-a-Bellishments Set 4 in her Etsy shop. And I will have a link to her Muted Backgrounds in her Etsy shop if you wanted to do this exact same project. One other thing that I used that you may want to use is I used a piece of just, it's canvas. I don't know what this is called. It's a rough weave fabric, very coarse grained. It's not cross stitch fabric, but cross stitch fabric would work. Any kind of cotton fabric that you have that's plain in color would work great for this technique that I'm going to be showing you. We're going to start by cutting page 2 from your pattern paper. Okay, this is going to be the inside covers. This is going to be our cover here. And I used that for the inside cover. So I just chose an overall pattern, you know, that didn't have any words and things. And that's what I'm using. Then I'm cutting a piece of the page 2. I used page 2 and I traced it out onto this fabric. Then, because I wanted this ruffly edge, raveled edge, I decided that what I would do is go ahead and make it wider. So where I had drawn a line and it was just inside here, I actually, you can see, maybe you can see. Yeah, you can see the line there. And so where I drew the line, I actually went and cut another inch outside of that. And that way I could pull off as many threads as I wanted to, and then trim it up the way I wanted. So that's what I did. Then once I had pulled off the amount that I wanted, and by the way, I pulled off right up to that pencil line before I stopped, I gave it a little haircut like this. You know, it trimmed it up the way I wanted it to, all the way around, so it looked semi-even. But you can see that there's fringe there, and as you go down, there's not. And that's because the piece that I cut was just, it was a remnant piece, and I just cut a little rectangle and did not really care about it. Except that I wanted it to be rustic and worn. This is an old, worn diary of sorts that somebody had made years ago, and so that's my thought processes with it. So as soon as I got through doing all my raveling, I stitched all the way around just to make it so it stops. There's no more raveling that can occur because of the stitching. So the next thing I did was I got the piece that was my cover that I traced out and cut from the pattern paper. So this is page 2 from Lovely Remnants, and I have glued it on with Fabri-Tac by Beacon. So now what we're going to do is allow that Fabri-Tac to dry, and then I'm going to stitch around again on this edge here, and I think I'm going to do a zigzag stitch this time because I think it'll show just a little bit. But I'm going to wait for this Fabri-Tac to dry really well. And I'm not really happy. I'm hoping it's not going to show anymore. But I'm not really happy. You can see it really clearly right there. I'm not happy about the way that I can see the Fabri-Tac through there. Well, I already had an idea. But this is an opportunity for me to give you an idea of how to correct those mistakes that happen. So let's say that your plan was to have this fabric on there and the Fabri-Tac showed through and you weren't really caring for that. Before you do the zigzag stitch all around, there's a couple things you could do. First of all, you could add another layer of fabric on there and just stitch it. Just stitch all the way around, and maybe stitch next to, not on your spine, or maybe even on your spine if you wanted to, but next to the 2 spine stitches here, or on the spine. I'm probably going to stitch next to the 2 spine, not to the spine stitches, but next to the spine scores here. And that way it'll be cute. But let's say that you didn't want to do that. Then another option that you could do is paint the cover. You could paint it with just an acrylic paint, just straight on acrylic paint. I would do all my sewing and then paint it, because sewing through acrylic paint is going to be like sewing through plastic, and so it would stick to your needle. I would paint it after I got through doing all my stitching. What another option is to take your mats. So yeah, okay, this happened and you weren't going to mat it, but putting a piece of pattern paper over this would be super cute. It would be super cute to have the fabric peeking out. So that would be a brilliant option. What I plan to do is I'm going to use gesso. Gesso is basically a white paint that has, if you make the homemade recipe, it has baby powder in it. White paint, glue, and baby powder. But what gesso does normally is it acts as a primer coat for anything that you put it on. So it has that grit in it from the baby powder or the actual marble dust in the real gesso, and that allows whatever you paint on top of it to stick to your substance. Gesso is kind of like that primer paint that you have to use to make things stick. So I'm going to put some gesso on here. It's going to give a white coat on top of this creamish colored fabric, so that when my book is closed and I have all my embellishments on here, there's a smeary white back there. My thinking on this is somebody's old diary, and maybe they took a canvas or something, I don't know. I just thought it would look really cool and kind of give that vintage effect. I'm going to be using Distress ink for my inking today. And I'm going to use milled lavender because it matches perfectly. I think that's it. We're going to get started. I'm going to start with gesso ink, but I'm going to sew my zigzag around first all the way, and then I will be back. Okay, I've sewn all the way around the edges. Let's see if you can see it. There you go. There's the zigzag stitch all the way around. Then here at the spine, there's a zigzag stitch, yes, there and there. Now this is the actual spine, so when I close it, there's no stitching on the spine itself. So I didn't want to go on those score lines because I didn't want to affect it opening and closing. And really the stitches are only just decorative. The very first stitch I did was the straight stitch, and it had a purpose to keep it from raveling. The rest of it's decorative. Let's see if you can see it on the inside. Yeah, you can. And that's where I stitched right up next to the score line. I got a little closer than I thought sometimes, but it's okay because it still works fine. Now, two things. I forgot to ink it. That is my number one thing, is forgetting to ink something. So I forgot to ink this on the edges before I put it in there, but that'll be okay. The Fabri-Tac is still showing. You can see it there. That dark line, that's the Fabri-Tac. So, and there's spots here. So, I'm going back with what I was thinking, which I was going to do a little bit of gesso anyway. So, I'm going to put a little bit on my palette here. Okay, so I'm back and I finished sewing. Here you can see that I've done a zigzag stitch on each side of the score. Now I didn't go on the score line, I went beside it, and I went all the way around the outside. These are just decorative stitches. They don't really serve any kind of purpose. But when I close my spine, you see the zigzag stitch is on either side of the spine. I didn't sew directly in the middle, but I could have. But just don't sew on the actual score line. Sew next to it, if you can see. So as usual, I forgot to ink my edges before I started. So I may play with that a little bit after I get done with the gesso. My Fabri-Tac is completely dry now, but you can still see spots from it. So that's fine because I already had a plan of doing a little smear of gesso. What I'm hoping to do, not only to cover up these spots, but I just want to give it the look as if, you know, paint got smeared and this was an old drop cloth or something and paint was just smeared on it. I don't want to get a really good coverage. So I have just a scruffy brush. I don't really know what its purpose is, but it's a little scruffy. It's a little wider and short like that. So it works really good to scruff. I always start with a damp brush, so I put it in water and then I wipe it off a little bit for the paint, and it also helps when you go to clean it off. That's my opinion, in my experience. That's probably not accurate because I'm not an artist. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of get my bristles wet. You know, I could go back and forth like this, or I could just, you know, pounce in it, but I'm getting a little bit on there. I put a little dollop of the gesso here on my palette because I wasn't sure if it was going to be enough, but I'd rather have too little than not enough. I'm going to move you forward just a little bit. Let's go in. Okay. I just didn't want you to get sick with the movement. Okay, so let's, oh yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And you can go so that it's very white like this, or you can take your brush, let's see if I can get it so you can see, and just lightly go across the top, and you just get a little bit like this. I think I like a little bit of both. So what do you think? I know it's hard to see because it's white on white, but let's bring it a little closer so you can see that texture. I love it. So shabby. Isn't that pretty? I just love how it's just spotty. Okay, now.
I need something to use my extra gesso with.
Okay, now I decided that I needed to go ahead and ink. I wasn't going to, and because I had forgotten it before I set it on there and glued it on. But there's always a way to go back and ink after. And what I've done is I took the milled lavender and I took that ink pad and I kind of went flat, kind of straight down on the paper like this. And that allowed it to go kind of far in. Let me see a place that you're really going to be able to tell, I think. I think you can tell next to those stitches. See how the stitches have a little white line? That's where the lavender didn't go. It's a lot more visible up close. I also did the area around the stitches in the center, did that, and then I took the pumice stone, and this is Tim Holtz Distress Ink in pumice stone, and I took it and I did it on an angle like this, and I barely touched the edges. Do you see that dark line? That's barely on the edges. It barely touched the fringe on the edge, so I didn't really want it all dirtied up. On the outside, I did the same thing. I did the milled lavender first, and I did it flat. You can see here how it comes in a little bit more into the fabric. It's really hard for you to tell the colors, but I did it flat like this, okay? And then when I did the pumice stone, again, I only wanted it a little bit on the edge and here on the spine where somebody's dirty hands. I mean, I just, when I do a project, I always think about who had it or who's going to have it, and what they're going to do, where they'll touch it, and why it will be that way. Where should the distressing go? Okay, so that's a little quick tip for you on how to distress so that you can use two colors. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, I'm going to show you how I created my little book, and I'm going to use page 2, which is the cover for the Remnants Lovely Layers. And when I use page 2, I'm going to alter it just a little bit. Now, the reason is I only wanted a 1/4 inch binding. I didn't want a big binding because I was only going to do 2 pages for the envelope. You can use page 4 from the Remnants Lovely Layers still, and page 4 has a 1/4 inch binding here. The only difference is that page 4 is a little shorter. Now, if that doesn't bother you, that's fine, but I know that my pockets that I'm going to use are going to be this same size.
It's the same size as this page 4. Yeah.
So I don't want to do that. I want it to have a little bit of a, you know, you want your pages to be inside of the cover just a little bit. Mine's barely inside of there after I got through raveling all of that fabric, but it'll work. Okay, so for the cover, I did use fabric, but what I've done is I cut it out of cardstock first. So I cut it out of my pattern paper. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to trace this first bit. And I've scored each of my pieces here like that. Now, I'm going to trace this first rectangle. So I'm going to give myself here and here. Okay, that's the left side, you know, or the right side of my album when it's open. Okay, now for the center here, I'm going to give myself a little line on this side, and then I'm going to move up 1/4 of an inch. And the way I do that is I get my Tim Holtz ruler, and I've got this line over here that's the right side. And I'm going to give myself a mark at the 1/4 inch. That's 1/2 inch. Let's go 1/4 inch right there. Okay. And then what I can do is I can either take my Tim Holtz ruler and I can draw my line, which is what I did. And I'm lining up my 10-holtz ruler over here on this side. Watch your eyes. Okay, I'm lining my 10-holtz ruler up on this side, nice and straight with a line in the edge of the cardstock. And that way I know my ruler is straight going across here. And I can draw myself that 1/4 inch line. What this has done is it's given me a 1/4 inch binding. Now what I do is I line up, I fold it again like this. Okay, so this is the other side. So what I've done is I've ignored this part. I traced this side. Now I'm ignoring this and I'm going to trace this side. To do that, I'm going to line up this edge right here with that score line I just drew. So I'm going to give it there. I may be a little off, but you know what? It'll be fine. Then I'm going to fold it out so that I can get the full measurement of it. You see? So now I have it. I guess I could have used something you can see the lines. There you go. Now I have one side, the score in the center, the 1/4 inch binding in the center. There you go. The 1/4 inch binding in the center, and then the right side. So now I'm ready to go with that. The next thing that we're going to do is we'll cut this out and score it everywhere. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out page 14, which is the insert for the accordion pocket. Now we're going to do the accordion pocket, and it is from page 12, and it is this piece here, like this, and we're going to trace it exactly like it is, making sure that you trace both of these score lines here. We're going to be folding on this one, not this one, so if you wanted to skip a score line, you could skip this one here. But this is the one we're actually going to use to close our envelope. Now we're going to do page 13. Page 13 is the other part of this accordion album. We're going to trace out this accordion pocket from page 13. We're going to trace it out as is, and then I'll show you what to do with it. Because in my little book, I did not use it as a accordion envelope. I didn't have it be thick. And this is made so that you can have a thicker envelope so that you can put more things inside. I'm going to go through and score everything, ink everything up, and that way you can see all my lines. Okay, I've got everything inked and ready. So here's our insert that goes inside of our envelope. I'll set that to the side. And here is our cover. And I think with the inking, you can see better that we're going to have a 1/4 inch spine. And this just makes the cover. I'll show you how to bind your page in just a moment. Then here are the two parts to the accordion pocket. First of all, we're going to start by cutting off the side tabs on this part. Now this is the part from page 12. Okay, there's this piece. This piece is going to fold up and make the bottom of our pocket. Now for this piece, we have all this extra here. This extra bit on the sides is something I'm not going to need. Normally for a pocket, you need a tab on each side and a tab on the bottom. And that's all you need to make an envelope pocket. Well, she's added the extra to make this be accordion, but you can still make this be an envelope for your mini album just as well. So it gives you two different options in a way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with taking these two off of each side. Now for the bottom. For the bottom, we need to have something to bind to our covers. And we have a 1/4 inch here. So I need to have a 1/4 inch. And if you will look right here on this part, this portion right here is a 1/4 inch. So that is a 1/4 inch right there. So what I'm going to do, and I did this with both of my envelopes. I have 2 in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off this part right here on the outside and leave just this 1/4 inch section. And this is the portion that's going to attach to our binding. Okay, so we want to just leave it up. We want these 2 side pieces to go in, and we're going to attach them to the sides of this. And this bottom is going to attach to the bottom of our piece here. Now don't glue anything to the very edge. You're going to be gluing this pocket to right there at the bottom. So there's 2 lines here, and you're going to glue it to the bottom of this, because this tab we need left free to use as our binding in the book. So I'm going to fold it back so that I can add my pocket down at the bottom. And I just do that first. I just line the 2 up together like this right here, and then when I add my glue,
I'm going to do a big craft room cleanup, and when I do that, I'm going to take pictures of what it is now. You guys would freak out.
There we go, and I just fold it in. Make sure it's lined up like I want it. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Alright, so that leaves us a piece on the outside here. This little flap here. Oh, can you see it? There we go. This little flap is left out here, and that can serve as our binding. Now this can fold in here. Let's make sure that it's good and attached.
There we go.
Now on the side, we're going to add glue, and I'm going to add glue here and here so that when I close my envelope, I'll have it attached well. That is another tip, is if you want your envelope to have a little give in it so you can, poke it really full, keep your glue toward the edge of your tab. The closer you get your glue to the edge of this score, the tighter your pocket's going to be. So if you want a really tight pocket so that you can just slip one piece in, then you keep your glue out here. But if you keep it toward the edge like I'm doing of these little tabs, then you can get a pocket with a little room in it. I'll show you that now. Now, here on the inside, your pocket, look how much room this pocket has already. And you can see here on the side, as I'm putting my fingers in the pocket, do you see how it's pulling away from the backing just a little bit? That is how it's going to do. It gives it just a little breathing room. And that's not something you'll ever notice it pulling away like that when you are doing using it as a project. I have unglued it up here. I need to put some glue there. Whoop, sorry. Oh, this also, oh geez. This also shows on these tabs here at the top. You see that? You need to trim those a little bit. Yeah. Told y'all, I'm going to tell you what not to do in my videos. Now let's attach it. And I did this for both of my envelopes. Let me show you how they work really quickly, and then we will do. So each envelope is attached in this center, one on top of the other, very easily, one on top of the other. I think maybe you can see one is attached on top of the other. So I would attach one here, and then it would be here. Then I would take the next one, and let's say that this is there. I would take the next one, and right over the top of it, right where it is, I would take this one. And you can do them in either orientation, okay? It doesn't have to be in the, so that the envelope opens this way, like mine did, okay? So very quickly, we're going to do that.
I would use either score tape or Fabri-Tac. I did use Fabri-Tac. I didn't use any score tape in my project just because it wasn't right there at me.
Now that this is closed, let's talk about closing your envelope. So you see how your page is going to work inside here. Now, when you add your insert, and I'm going to add mine here for now. When you add your insert, Jennifer has included 2 score lines for you. You can choose which one you want to use. If you're going to have a short insert, if you use the full size insert, it's short enough to go so that you can use that score line for your envelope. This one you just wouldn't trace over, okay? It's made so that it makes a box top of sorts, a flat top to go over that accordion pocket. So you can choose which one of these you want to do. So if you're tracing yours like I did, then you would use whichever one. I chose to use this one. What I did was I used paper clip then to close it. Or you could use a string tie, you know, put 2 little circles of paper and put string that figure 8s between them, or 2 buttons, whatever you wanted to do. Any kind of closer that you use for envelopes normally. So that's what I did, and I put the second one just right on top of here in the center because it leaves that perfect spot. Then there's your book, just like that, and then your pages would flip inside just like mine do. Okay, that's my mini album, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a wonderful, wonderful months, 4 months with JenofEve Designs and using her templates for her design team. I've absolutely enjoyed it. Jennifer's really nice and kind and supportive and encouraging, and she's given me some great tips to improve the quality of my videos for you guys. And if you have any suggestions for me, please put those down in the comments below, or, you know, just give me a, hey, I'd like to see more of this. That I would love to have comments like that. You know, what kind of things would you like to see? I'm going to be doing a lot of other projects, some projects with watercolor and, well, a lot of them with mixed media and things so that I can use them in my albums, making some art journals and things like that, kind of expanding a little bit. Also, I'll be doing some junk journals, which would be along the lines of this one. So I do hope you enjoyed this video and enjoyed seeing how to make your own luscious fabric cover like this and the cute, cute, cute little album. So please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe while you're here. If you're already subscribed, make sure you click that bell so you'll be notified. You'll be seeing more of the videos for my series on the baby album. They'll be coming up throughout the next week or so. And I hope you will stick around for those too. Thanks, guys.